Hello and welcome to Eco Africa, the environment magazine co-produced by NTV in Uganda, Channels TV in Nigeria and DW in Germany. I am Sandra Twinobudia and with me today as always is my co-presenter Chris. Hey Chris, how are you today?
Just fine, Sandra. Thank you so very much. And a warm welcome to all our viewers out there. We have a lot in store for you on today's program, so let's take a quick look at what we have coming up. In Nigeria, we'll meet a young activist campaigning for the environment. And in Rwanda, we'll learn how depleted farmland can be restored. According to a recent UN report, climate change is having a growing impact on the African continent, hitting the most vulnerable the hardest. Science-based climate information can help build resilience, a cornerstone of climate change adaptation. That enables people in the villages and communities to understand what climate change is and at the same time to do something about it. The Gambia Environmental Monitoring System Science Project in West Africa is also trying to involve the local population in the process.
Every change is carefully noted. Each week, Kadiatu Kiyate and Adesina David Davis collect environmental data from the aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems in 6 locations along the Gambia River.
Right now, I'm recording the parameters we have here, which is the temperature, humidity, the wind speed, the wind chill, the air pressure, altitude, dew point, and the wind direction.
The effects of climate change are causing hardship for many who live near the river. For centuries, they have subsisted on small-scale fishing and farming. Mangroves, which filter salt out of the water, made that possible. But due to the rising sea level and extensive droughts, the river's salt content got so high it killed many trees. That's been disastrous for farmers like Fatumata Barrow. We used to harvest rice here, but now the yield is low. When the mangroves were healthy, there were no problems, but they are now dead and our crops are not doing well. Not a lot of research has been done on biodiversity and the environment in the Gambia. So that makes predicting the impact climate change might have on local ecosystems more difficult. That inspired 10 young scientists to launch the GEMS initiative.
GEMS is an acronym for Gambia Environmental Monitoring Systems Project, and it is a research project whereby we're collecting environmental data along the River Gambia to understand the seasonal and yearly fluctuations happening.
But the waterway is almost 1,200 kilometers long, so the institute relies on the support of community-based groups and locals like CD Double, a journalist by trade. Double works as a citizen scientist 20 kilometers from the capital, Banjul.
My role as a citizen data collector is to collect data and then send to them every week, and also train some students along with me to also they can know how to collect data. I decided to participate in this project because if you look at this area, you will see that it's already dead.
Here in the Lower River Division, the dieback is extensive. Mangrove stumps dot an otherwise empty landscape, leaving the coastline exposed. It's no longer possible to maintain fields through tidal irrigation from the river. The loss of the mangroves also means a loss of habitat and breeding ground for fish and other aquatic life. The freshwater fish have moved further upstream. With the help of international NGOs and volunteers, Ansumana Dabo hopes to restore the mangrove forests, but with a different, more robust variety.
Thanks to the data we collect with the Grace Institute, we have been able to know the salinity level of the water. And secondly, we have been able to identify the species of mangrove we have within our ecosystem. They absorb a lot of salt. Unlike before when there was no tree, salt intrusion is high. But now, hence the mangroves are salt tolerable. They absorb a lot of salt that has made a decrease in salinity level within the women rice field.
Fatumata Barrow, who's been growing rice here for 20 years, hopes the newly planted red mangroves will give her crops a fighting chance. We thank God for the new mangroves along the river. As they grow, less salt will get through. Since August 2021, more than 150,000 mangroves have been planted in the Gambia River Delta in order to conserve the ecosystem. The symbiosis of scientific knowledge and local engagement is bearing fruit.
Why do we actually need climate activists? What can they do better than politicians and scientists? For one thing, they speak for their own generation, a generation that has to cope with the world will leave them. But more importantly, they manage to motivate other young people. And my compatriot Adenike Oladotu says that what lies ahead of us in terms of environmental protection cannot be done by the few. Echo Africa visited her.
My name is Oladosu Adenike. I'm an eco-feminist, climate justice activist, and an eco-reporter.
Using a video blog as her fighting tool, Oladosu Adenike is one of Africa's most vocal environmental activists. Having studied agriculture, the 27-year-old has always had a love for the environment. But it was after meeting Greta Thunberg at the 2019 COP conference in Madrid that she was inspired to take further action. Standing alone, she started the Fridays for Future movement in Nigeria.
All what we want is to have climate justice. It's where we are going that matters the most, irrespective of the country where we are from or our race. We are all aiming at the same thing.
1 year into protesting every Friday and giving talks, Oladosu realized that there was a lack of knowledge about climate change on the continent. So she started her own Pan-African climate justice movement and website where she writes about how Africa specifically is affected.
Just like the clashes between the farmers and herdsmen, the survival issue for resource control, the shrinking Lake Chad, and every other crisis happening within Africa that goes unheard. Let people get to understand that we have a problem in our society and we need to solve those problems right now.
As an eco-feminist, Oladosu's work also focuses on how environmental rights are connected with women's rights. She regularly visits female farmers to teach them how to care for their environment and adapt better to the changes. Her greatest passion is inspiring children and getting them involved in climate activism. At schools, she teaches about recycling and planting trees.
After listening to her, and I know the importance of planting of trees. Her lecture inspired me to stop cutting down trees and planting trees. When I grow up, I will plant trees in my house to stop erosion.
For Oladosu, climate education is the only way to secure their future.
In decades to come, there will be the next leader, there will be the one at the forefront of the climate change justice movement to be advocating in their different perspectives.
Oladosu believes that everyone, regardless of age, can and should do something to protect the planet.
So why not start right now? Climate change is needed to set the necessary changes in motion. Only a combination of all of them can slow down the increase in global temperature bit by bit.
But Chris, even if we stopped emitting greenhouse gases today, the rise in global temperatures would only begin to flatten after a few years. There is a time lag between what we do and when we feel the results. This is why it is urgent to act now and why urban planners are working on new mobility concepts that can be implemented quickly and sustainably.
This animation shows what the Holstenplatz in Hamburg would look like if all the cars and traffic signs were gone, making room for trees and grass. It could be a square of paradise for cyclists and pedestrians. But it actually looks like this, much to the displeasure of Hamburg graphic designer Jan Kaminski. He would like to see fundamental changes, which is why he began making animations of how he believes streets should be.
The project got started with the beginning of the COVID pandemic. I looked around and thought, I don't want to just sit and wait for the changes we need. I want to contribute. And as a visual designer, I can change urban spaces.
Jan Kaminski thinks gray streets and dreary squares should be transformed around the world. Or at least in animations to start, like here in New York City, and in Belgium's capital, Brussels, and Germany's capital, Berlin. The graphic designer launched social media accounts under the name Utopia for bicyclists.
We need more space for bikes and more bicycles so that their genius can take effect. Their low emissions take up little space compared to other modes of transportation and can be used for many things.
Jan Kaminski's vision is already reality in Germany's neighbor, the Netherlands. For example, in the country's fourth largest city, Utrecht, where 125,000 people cycle daily, whatever the weather. That's more than a third of the city's population. Communications expert Chris Bruntlett works for the Dutch Cycling Embassy, a network that advocates for greater use of bicycles. He spends much of his time on the Bredenberg, the most heavily traveled bicycle path in the Netherlands. A good 33,000 bike riders use it every day. But before, it used to be a multi-lane road with heavy traffic, like the ones found in all cities.
Unfortunately, a lot of cities, cycling is still just for the fit and the brave and the really risk-tolerant people that are willing to rub shoulders with motor vehicles. But that's not the vast majority of people that live in that city. They want to be able to tune out and just enjoy their commute. And when you provide safe, separated space for cycling, you're going to attract more of those casual users, a lot of women, a lot of children, a lot of the elderly, people with physical disabilities.
In 2019, the world's biggest parking garage for bicycles opened in Utrecht. Displays tell cyclists if any spaces are free. Up to 12,500 bike riders can park here, right next to the main station. Chris Bruntlett says the garage is another reason why the Netherlands can be described as bike-friendly. In fact, the country has become known for its bike-friendly and aesthetically pleasing solutions, such as the Daphne Shippers Bridge, which passes over the roof of a school and connects two neighborhoods. For many in Utrecht, cycling is more convenience than chore.
It's just so much more convenient to travel around the city on a bike. It's so much quicker and more fun.
Hamburg is still far from being a cyclist's paradise, but Jan Kaminski hopes to at least bring attention to urban mobility questions.
Nearly 2/3 of Africa's working population are employed in farming, so the sector's economic importance can't be overstated. It also provides food for millions of families, of course, but climate change poses a growing threat to agriculture. Drought-stricken soil that has been leached of its nutrients cannot produce a decent harvest. So how can food security be maintained? Here is one answer from Rwanda.
Coaxing a decent harvest out of the soil is tough here in the mountainous Gikumbi district of northern Rwanda. Eugene Hajinamana and his wife work from dawn till dusk. Their fields are on steep slopes, so when it rains, the water flushes the soil down into the valley. If things don't change, the farmer fears his family could face starvation, since this is their sole source of income.
Look at these bananas. We used to harvest banana bunches weighing over 50 kilos. So looking at this one, you can see we have a problem.
A situation made worse by climate change. Heavy rainfall alternating with extreme dry periods has rendered entire slopes barren, meaning they're no longer suitable for farming.
It's difficult to farm in these mountainous areas with such excessive rainfall. It causes land, crops, and fields to be frequently washed away, not to mention the loss of life among local people. Under these conditions, farmers cannot hope to produce harvests without a sustainable solution to all these problems.
This is where the Green Chikumbi program comes in. Agriculture experts visit farmers to show them how to respond to the changing weather conditions and how to protect their soil. It's hoped the project will benefit around 500,000 people across the 800 square kilometers that the Chikumbi district covers. It has a budget of nearly 30 million euros and is funded by the UN's Green Climate Fund. With no time to waste, everyone pitches in to put the experts' insights into practice.
It increases our awareness of climate change and how to adapt our farming methods to it. We're taught how to restore our abandoned land, how to fight erosion during the rainy season, and how to store rainwater for irrigation during the dry season. It's very useful.
One key is to build terraces on the slopes. This allows more rainfall to seep into the soil and slows down the water flow into the valley. Plus, the terraces are easier to plant crops on. Horizontal troughs are also being created to slow down and divert fast-flowing runoff water. That water can then be collected and stored in underground tanks to be used later for irrigation.
The radical terraces has double impact. Has impact to reduce the soil erosion, the water retained in the soil, contribute to the productivity, and also the fertilization, application of the fertilizers going where due to the establish those benches, terraces.
Out on the terraces, the farmers also plant additional trees. Their roots will over time protect the soil from erosion, while their leaves will provide shade during dry season. With the soil staying moist for longer, maize, beans and potatoes grow far better, and the farmers can improve their yields. Many tracts of land that used to lie fallow are now flourishing again with a variety of vegetables, leading to improved nutrition amongst the local population.
The harvest that we're expecting this season is a miracle for me. This land was no longer usable. But since the arrival of Green Chikumbi, climate change is no longer stopping us from growing crops. Just look at what we have in these fields.
In a further boost to the farmers' livelihood, new tea plantations are being used up on that land that had long ceased to be fertile, and there are more ideas in the pipeline.
We can recommend any area, any slope which is appropriate for protective forestry, appropriate for forestry, appropriate for cultivation.
A look across the valley and beyond reveals the dividends of the Green Chikumbi project. The arid brown of depleted slopes is gradually disappearing, replaced by lush greenery and farmland.
Some depend on healthy soil, others depend on an intact marine ecosystem. But there is only a limited amount of fish in our oceans, and those resources are being depleted quickly.
That's right, Sandra. According to the WWF, systematic overfishing and illegal fishing of valuable fish stocks is to blame for the destruction of many marine ecosystems. With the help of digital technology, a project on South Africa's Cape wants to end the suffering of local fishermen there.
5:30 in the morning at the port of Cape Town. While most of the city still sleeps, skipper Geoffrey Fraser and his crew prepare to put out to sea. The 10-member crew are going handline fishing for Cape Bream. They're hoping for a good catch today.
Totally depends on the weather outside. And also the patience of the skipper. You know, if you haven't got a good skipper, you're not going to catch nothing.
There might be some truth in that, but it's a little fishy to lay all the blame on the skipper. Conditions for artisanal commercial fishing on the Cape have grown tougher over the years.
Possibly climate change, overfishing of the baits, change of current. Yeah, plenty reasons I can give you.
They also struggle with fishing quotas and market access. Jeffrey Fraser wants to improve conditions for his crew and has found the solution in the Abalobi app. Abalobi, which means someone who fishes in a local language, connects small-scale fishers directly with consumers. Daniel Smith helped found the app and the NGO of the same name, which began as a University of Cape Town research project in 2017.
Here in South Africa and around the world, small-scale fishers have been excluded and struggle for access to markets. Abalobi came about recognizing that there was this need, and there's an opportunity to then connect these small-scale fishers digitally to markets and for them to be able to access and own their own data.
In practice, this means Jeffrey Fraser and his crew can sell their daily catch to restaurants and private customers directly through the Abalobi app, cutting out the middlemen.
The Abalobi is quite a good help for us, that we know what we're going for and what we're catching, and the price is much better than we get from the local buyers. So for us it's a big help.
Crew member Reggie Schwenk says middlemen only pay fishers roughly €1 a kilo for Cape Bream. On Abalobi, the crew can net over 3 times that. That means they can generate the same revenue with a smaller catch. Abalobi is financed through donations and outside funding. The NGO behind the app helps the fishers with infrastructure and logistics. Catches go by refrigerated truck to decentralized refrigerated storage facilities. Short hauls help reduce the carbon footprint. Abalobi employee Han Goliath confirms the weight of the catch. He comes from a fishing family and wants to help his community.
I'm a fisher and I want to remain a fisher. So irrespective of what part of fishing I do, I think for as long as I'm active in the fishing industry. What Abalobi do is to just assist us with the process between after we catch the fish and the end consumer, which is a challenge for generations long.
And that's exactly what happens. The catches from Jeffrey Fraser's boat and other Abalobi fishers go online and become available to customers on the app's marketplace page. Chef Neil Swart is co-owner of a restaurant in Cape Town. He's one of over 400 chefs and 8,000 private customers registered as buyers on Abalobi. Last night, the chef placed an order on the app. This morning, Han Goliath delivers it, 5 kilos of Cape Bream.
The proof is in the pudding, or the fresh fish for that matter. Like the quality of the fish we got is just, that's something we haven't worked with before.
With the app's QR code, the restaurant owner and his guests can trace exactly where a fish comes from, the fish's name, the species, and where it was caught.
I love knowing where the money is going. So I love knowing that the money is going to the fishermen and not some massive company who's just abusing the sea. And the customers also enjoy hearing that the money they spend here by us goes directly to the fishermen, and we can see exactly how much they get.
Since its debut, Abalobi has put more than €500,000 directly into the pockets of struggling fishers. Similar projects are already up and running in other countries, all aimed at preserving fish stocks and ensuring local fishers get a living wage.
Arming ourselves against climate change and its consequences, as well as gaining new knowledge to educate local populations and apply new ideas and methods. I hope this edition of the show convinced you how important caring for our environment is. For now, goodbye from me, Chris Alems in Lagos, Nigeria.
We hope you enjoyed a great mix of topics coming through from Africa and Europe. And of course, we look forward to having your company once again next week. I am Sandra Twinobryo, signing off from Kampala here in Uganda.